A key technique to start building your mountain biker toolbox to ride with more fluidity is definitely the wheelie. Before you get started working on wheelies, be sure that you're safe. Wear a helmet, some kind of back protection. I've got a backpack on in this case. Elbow pads, knee pads, gloves, and be sure on your bike, your rear brake works really well. There's two safety techniques you gotta keep in mind as you're starting to work on your wheelies. First off, your rear brake is going to be your best friend. If you start to get too far over the back, grabbing your rear brake will often bring you back down to the earth with your front tire. The second key safety technique is to be comfortable with jumping off the back of your bike rather than landing flat on your back on the ground like a turtle. I still remember being 10 years old, looping out a big wheelie and getting the wind knocked out of me so bad I couldn't talk for about a half an hour. Don't do that. Learn how to jump off the back first before you end up looping out a sweet wheelie. To pull the front end up, it's really important to do it smoothly. Now, to do it smoothly, keep your arms fairly straight, and you also need to do a pretty big hip movement to get the front end to really come up. Now, it's easiest to do this as you begin a pedal stroke because that's a very similar type of movement. My first secret tip about wheeling is that the hardest part is actually going in a straight line. Once you start getting wonky, it leads to all the other problems that plague many folks' wheelie skills. Since it is so hard to keep the wheelie in a straight line, and since that is so important, it's really key to make sure your initiation to the wheelie is as smooth as possible. Secret tip number 2. This one helped me probably the most. So what I figured out way back when, and I still use today, is that the hardest parts of the wheelie are all controlled by the back of the brain, but the initiation for the wheelie is controlled by the front of the brain. When you pull the front end up, that's something you need to be consciously thinking about. Now, if you try and stay in the front of your brain and think about your balancing, it's gonna be really hard. You need to get into the back of your brain and almost subconsciously manage your balancing and what direction you're going. Once the front end is up smoothly, I then focus on a goal, on a distance marker, and focus solely on reaching the wheelie to that goal, rather than thinking about anything else. When I say set a distance goal, I mean pick a stationary object that you're gonna wheelie to. For today's example, we're gonna use an old Frisbee that's got a nice bright color to it. Now let's bring this full circle. We know that the hardest part of the wheelie is actually going in a straight line. Once you reach your distance goal, you're probably gonna snap back into the front of your brain. So don't be greedy, just put the front wheel back on the ground, because once you do reach that goal, you're then a lot more likely to crash or loop out than before you get to it. So reach your goal, set it down, and then try again with a further distance marker. In order to keep progressing your wheelie skills and distances, focus on picking a marker point that's further away and further away, rather than trying to keep eking in more distance once you reach your known marker. By increasing the distance between your starting point and your goal point, this will keep you safer and more in the back of your mind than if you try to just keep extending your wheelie past your marker point. Once you've mastered these 2 secret tips we've talked about here today, the next step is going to be applying your wheelie to the trail. And for that, stay tuned for the next video. If you found this helpful, tell your friends. You can find more tutorial videos coming, one a month, here on my Patreon page.